Now that you know about Mule applications and Mule events, you will learn to create a Mule application using Anypoint Studio. Anypoint Studio is based on the Eclipse IDE and allows you to build Mule applications using either a graphical view to generate XML or an XML editor. The XML can then be deployed and executed in the Mule runtime. Studio includes pre-built functionality which allows you to connect to all types of APIs, protocols, and services, and to transform data to different types and structures. Studio also offers the ability to edit and sync API specifications with Anypoint Platform. You can also run, debug, and deploy Mule applications. You'll be able to create templates for common integration patterns and utilize Maven for a continuous build process. This is the Anypoint Studio user interface, which is based on a layout concept called perspectives. Each perspective contains a collection of panels that each contain views. There are 3 perspectives included with Studio: one for API development, one for debugging, and one that you can see here, which is used for design. Perspectives are customizable, but this is what the design perspective looks like by default. The top left corner contains the Project Explorer view, which allows you to work with packages, folders, and files. Below that, the bottom left panel contains the Outline view, which displays the flows that are contained in the selected Mule configuration file. The center panel is used to display the project files, and the one that is selected here is a Mule configuration file. A Mule configuration can be displayed as message flows, also known as the canvas, as global elements, or as configuration XML. The right panel contains that Mule palette, which displays the modules that have been added to the project. Each module contains the connectors and processors that are used to build the flows. The bottom panel contains views that allow you to work with the properties of the connectors and processors, identify the problems that may currently exist in the project, or display logged messages. A Mule flow contains 3 sections: source, process, and error handling. In the message flow view, you can see the content of each section graphically. The source section is optional, but may contain a connector that defines how the flow is triggered from outside the application, or it may be left empty, making the flow private so that it can only be triggered from within the application. The process section is required and must have one or more processors to define the operations to perform on the Mule event that gets passed through the flow. The error handling section is also optional and may contain one or more processors to define the operations to perform on the Mule event if an error occurs in the flow. In the Configuration XML view, you can see the corresponding XML that gets generated as you configure the flow. Within the XML, you can see elements for the flow, HTTP listener, database select operation, transform, logger, and error handling code. Mule applications are built using the connectors and processors that are contained in the palette. By default, every project includes the core module, which contains the primary components that are used to create flows, and modules used to interact with HTTP, TCP, and UDP protocols. To provide additional functionality, you can add more modules to the project, either from the ones that are installed with Studio or by downloading them from Exchange. Anypoint Studio comes with an embedded Mule runtime. You can use this to run and test applications without leaving Studio and view the messages that are generated when the project is deploying and running in the console view. If the console shows the application status as deployed, the application is running and is ready to be tested. If the status shows as failed, you can scroll up through the console window to locate error messages that are going to help you diagnose the cause of the failure. For training purposes, you will use the Advanced REST client to test your applications. However, automated testing is the best way to ensure your applications are thoroughly tested before you deploy them to a Mule runtime environment. Anypoint Studio includes MUnit, a fully integrated testing framework that helps automate the testing process. You may be interested to know that MUnit is covered in the following course: Anypoint Platform Development, Production-Ready Development Practices. In the first walkthrough, you will create a new Mule project using Anypoint Studio that listens for an HTTP request and returns a simple message. You will run it using the embedded Mule runtime and test it using the advanced REST client.